Hey everyone, I'm David Room. I'm on vacation at the beach, and I don't like the beach, so I am inside, uh, at least over this lunchtime noon hour here, working on my 3D modeling projects that I've been sharing with you. And I've had a lot of time to work on this project over the past week. We're going to be here for 2 weeks, and I've been here for a week so far. And I've made a lot of progress on some what I like to call high detail 3D art, kind of as opposed to the game art and my Blender interface. And I'm starting to work on some specific art pieces. And I had a bunch of random stuff to do here today. I think there's going to be both some programming on the Blender interface that I have, as well as, or that I'm building, as well as the art, like the 3D modeling itself. So let's just get right into it. I'm going to bring up a list. I'm a little cramped for space here because I have only a portable monitor, so forgive me if I'm kind of juggling things around a little bit more. I'm using my internal MacBook screen here. Usually I have a big monitor off to the side. Um, but I'll show you what I'm working on. Let me make sure that I'm going to share this on Twitter quick so people know that I'm live if they want to hop in and hang out and get some music going. I've been listening to this cyberpunk industrial fight music by White Bat. It's pretty fun, and it starts off with one of my favorite tracks of his, so let's get that going. Okay, so I'll show you what I'm working on, and there's a couple little tweaks that we've got to start by making here. So if you haven't watched my videos before, I'm doing something a little bit unique, which is doing all of my 3D modeling, or like 99% of it, with Python, using a library that I wrote, which wraps some other libraries, but actually has a lot of functionality written by me as well. And then I also have functionality that lets me programmatically control Blender and sort of direct Blender to load in all of the things that I'm creating, and then apply things like shaders and materials and just different UI stuff and render the scene. So it's a little different than a lot of YouTube tutorials you might see where people are building things in Blender with geometry nodes, or running code inside Blender that creates the geometry. I'm sort of running the code outside and then importing things into Blender. But I'm working on this scene right now, and this is far from complete. It's a little bit random, but I'm just trying to get a bunch of things in there and get a start on it to test. So this is, I gotta actually come at, this is making some candle flames here. Turning a low poly candle flame into a high detail candle flame. The scene, and then it takes a little while to load everything into Blender, and here it is in Blender. So this guy he's an ophonym. If you've seen the biblically accurate angel meme on any social media platform, these creatures with eyes and stuff, he's kind of my take on it. And he is a character in the space combat game that I'm making. My sci-fi world has a lot of supernatural elements, and he's kind of the supernatural character that's behind a lot of these events. And this scene is supposed to be him in his library. He's doing some research on some old books with some candles. He's pretty big. He's maybe like a few meters across, so he kind of dwarfs this stuff that he's looking at. And eventually I'm going to put these books on tables, and we're going to have books on the bookshelves, and it's a little bit random of a scene right now, but it's where we're starting. So a couple random things that I want to do here. So, I'm working right now on my MacBook Pro, and this viewport render is taking a really long time to render, in part because I'm rendering it on my Retina display. And it runs much faster at like half resolution, and I can't really see the full Retina resolution. So I want to be able to make the resolution basically half. You can see, if you see the sample count counting up here, if I go down to performance and then put pixel size at 2x, it starts counting up way faster and it looks pretty much the same. So I want to automate this as part of the render configuration. Let me actually just make a little list of what we're doing. I have some of this in my backlog, but it's a little scattered. So let's see, what are we going to do? We're going to do, let's see here, pixel 2x import render. Okay, so that's something that we want to do. I have some different programmatic materials here. Oh, the other thing that I want to turn on. So I want to turn off the noise threshold here. I already have control for this number of samples, but I want to turn the noise threshold off and I want to turn denoise on. So let's take a look. We can, if we go in scripting, we should be able to see what the script commands for these actions are. So it's going to be something like these. So there's like our scene .render .preview pixel size, and then there's the, all right, let's take a look at our render configuration here. So the way this works is that there's a script called render blender that loads in a config file and then uses that config file to instantiate the scene and update various configuration stuff. So I have something here called the render config, and this is where some of this stuff is going to go. And actually there's some outdated stuff in here that I think we can go ahead and remove. And I think, let's see here. So this is all, yeah. And then I think the code in here for setting, let's see, where do I actually, where do I actually set that? There should be, yeah, configure, here's where I configure cycles, and where I configure EV. Okay. And some of this code is a little bit scattered. I've been really hitting this and kind of cleaning it up as I go, so we're gonna see. So these settings, I think, yeah, at least the okay, so yeah, cycles use preview adaptive sampling is what that's called. So I'll just actually, do I actually have any other places where I'm doing scene cycles? It doesn't look like it. This is old stuff here. So let's see here. Can't remember what stuff is in cycle here. Okay, so use sampling. Just kind of like to lay all this stuff out where I can see it. Okay, and then here's, I want to do use preview denoising. I want to make this a bool as well. And I don't know. I think I like to customize the stuff to my workflow. So I think for me, I'm probably going to be mostly using the same configuration of these flags for both preview and actual. So we're going to do so use denoising here, and then let's see. This is the first programming I'm doing today. I was holding my son when he was sleeping this morning and reading a math book. Just getting my fingers warmed up here. And then we want to do the same thing. This is the preview configuration versus the render. Okay, and that looks good. Let's update some of this code for a new style. Okay, now let's look at where we're calling configure cycles. This old stuff, we mostly care about this. Samples, preview samples. Sampling equals sampling and use denoising. Let's just, I like to order things logically, so this kind of actually comes after. Cycles config. Now we've got to add these guys to, whoops. Got to add these guys to, just check the chat here, see if anybody has any questions. Not yet. Okay. So cycles config needs samples, preview samples, sampling. We can actually replace these with data classes. That might be a nice thing to do on stream today. But we'll just get it working first and then go from there. Now, this preview pixel size, that's a general thing. So, let me just test something. So it's a little odd to me that this is a string too. I want to see if it actually works if I set it to be a number. So let's just take a look. So this is under performance, pixel size. It's probably a string because it's like 2x. So bpy.context.scene.render.preview pixel size equals, what happens if we say, because it goes like 2, 4, 8. What if we just say 4? Yeah, it must be a string. So let's see if we do that. Yeah, then it changes to 4. So it does want a string. Interesting. Okay. Solution function, transparent exposure, preview pixel size, salt up. Preview pixel size. Preview pixel size. Yeah, we gotta change these into data classes. Okay, and we've got to update our default now. So this is nice. So what are we missing? Samples, preview samples, use adaptive sampling. I don't usually like this. I want to know I'm getting a certain number of samples. And use denoising. It's going to be true because you kind of want to have that on. We got to get rid of this shadow cascade size stuff. And we need our default preview pixel size, which I actually do want to be 1. Or actually, let's see what the automatic one is. Cycles, performance. The default is auto. Okay. Yeah, see. Yeah. Okay, so let's just close this out. Now we should be able to modify this stuff for the open. And if we go render config, preview pixel size is 2. And cycles config, we want to use denoising. It's true. Use adaptive sampling is false. And we'll just see if this looks like what we want, and then we'll test and see, make sure we can toggle those things off. Adaptive sampling. Okay. Oh, and we gotta get rid of this. Just gonna go. Note of this change because I did it last night. got some error here. Scene dot, oh, that should be scene dot cycles. This stuff is a little annoying, but once you've done it once, you don't have to do it again, you know. Let's see, that seemed to run without errors. And let's see, we've got our noise threshold disabled, we got our number of samples set. Now if we, I'll just do that again and we'll turn it on so you can see the difference. Yep, and denoise is on, which is what we want. Now let's just check and make sure we can toggle those things. So if we say use denoising false, use adaptive sampling equals true, toggle both the other way. Yep, noise threshold is on, denoising is off. You can see our noisy look here. And let's just check and make sure that performance pixel size automatic. Oh, that's not getting set correctly. Review pixel size. Interesting. Okay. Review pixel size. Oh, did I never actually... write anything to change that? Yeah, I never wrote anything to change that. So that is going to be scene.render .preview pixel size equals render config .review pixel size. Performance, yeah, pixel size 2x. So let's go back to the configuration that we want here. Actually want probably something more like 96 here for this particular piece. Okay, well that takes care of that stuff. Let's do something else quick. So, I have this way that I'm constructing materials, and I don't really like it because it's relying on this kind of roundabout way of doing things. And we don't really need to do that. But I want to make sure that I can sort of skip it here. So basically, I'm building this material as this sort of default material using a BSDF that I'm then updating with this sequence of things. And I can basically replace the stuff that's in here with just this kind of thing. So I'm going to just try to do that quick, make sure it works. I don't want to get too hung up on this, but I want to knock it out while I'm thinking about it. So this is just going to be a dict where it has updates, and that's going to be this list, and oops. And we're going to name this pages, and we want to make sure that we have those things. Let's see here. Yeah, so we just want to basically add this thing here. So we want our and actually let's just check. I just want to make sure material. Let me just see if this works just as is, because I wonder if I think it probably adds those nodes automatically, so I don't, and that connection, so I don't even know if I need to do this. This just might be enough. Here, this is the pages node. Nope, it looks like it crashed out. Let's see. Oh, pages not found to instance. Oh, I need to to create this material. Let's see here. Use dict. None. Oh, interesting. Material is none. Do I have this not found to instance here? Found to instance, yeah. So I actually Python okay, there, this is what I want. I want to add a new default material. But I don't want to do this default name. Yeah. Okay. Maybe. Yeah, see that principled BSDF should already be in there when I create a new material. So we just we want to do this, and we want the name to be this is sloppy, but this should work. So oh yeah, because this doesn't necessarily have an object, right? Material. Because these are going to come in the material previews. Yeah, let me just materials. This whole interface, it's sort of update material. Let's see here. It's not material. It's config dot. Yeah, I create a new object for each one to go on. And is this gonna work? If there's no name field. Name. I think we want to do elif new material name equals codify all this stuff a little later, and that's where, yes, that's where it gets created. Okay, so new text. Part of what's going on here is that I initially wrote this as kind of like a JSON thing, where the whole thing would be like all this configuration stuff would be serialized with JSON, and it's just too complicated to do that. And I was picturing something a lot less complicated when I first made this. So it's a lot of like, I don't know, not very nice interface that could be greatly improved. But we're still kind of wrestling with the old functionality. But I've made some changes over the past couple weeks that I think is going to make it a lot easier to take the interface forward. Because I have more of a template for each project where I can kind of rerun things and verify that things are working and I'm not breaking things as I update things. So, okay. This should do it. Let's see what this does. Nope. Let's see. Did it show up? Okay, we do have a material, a pages material, but oh, it's named with material preview. We don't want that. That's the problem. So how did that happen? Oh, see, why is this? Oh, yeah. See, this should be. Oh, I probably just didn't name it right. Yeah, so this needs to not be name, it needs to be new. Name equals pages. Yeah. Then this should work. Okay. I'm making a mess, but I'm making a mess and cleaning it up faster than I used to be able to. All right, we still don't have it. It's still called material preview pages. New name is pages. Scene. If new dict. Here we go. Okay, there we go. There it is. And you should see it if we look at the rendered. Let's see, is 96 enough to bring out that texture? Yeah, I see it. Cool. So what I've done is at this point, it's quite easy and I think fairly readable to describe how to build materials in code. Through this interface, I don't need to, like I had this system before where I could sort of actually write code that built the materials and then have Python load it. Doing that kind of thing is always a little bit overkill, and I don't really think there's much advantage to that. There's not a whole lot of operations required to build materials, and we've got them now. So like I can describe this material just with this sequence of objects and it works fine. So I'll just note here. Yeah. Cool. And I want to rewrite this interface a little bit, but I don't want to do that now. I want to get onto something a little bit more interesting, like actual some actual geometry. Excuse me, actual geometry stuff. Okay. So, what I want to do with the rest of this stream is I want to get some books on that bookshelf. Let's not use this here. Okay. So we're going to back up a little bit. So we're not going to be looking at Blender so much anymore for now. We're going to switch to dry run and put some stopping points here. So this is our file that describes the background scene for the open with the bookshelves and stuff. And let's just take a look, because there's a few other things that I might want to do while we're at it here. And I think this is just a single mesh. So we want to take a look at this shelf, and then we want to add some books to the shelves. we're just going to exit right here with debug exit. And I also want to get rid of this random printout crap. I'm converting everything to use logging just for the simple reason that you can very easily get to wherever that error is coming from with logging, and you can see what's creating the printout, so it's easy to disable stuff. I find that like I don't use debuggers, and it would be kind of hard to use debuggers for this project. I like printouts, but I think what really makes printouts useful is when you have a nice logger that can take you to the right spot in the code. So, okay, so here's our bookshelf. I want to make sure that there are some constants somewhere that describe what the vertical surfaces of these shelves are, so we can put books on them, as well as the height. I think these shelves are all the same size. We definitely want to be able to find those locations. Okay, so yeah, we're going to pull a lot of this stuff out into a constant here. I don't care so much about the drawers right now because we're not positioning things relative to them. So let's focus on the shelf specific stuff. Okay. Yeah, we don't really care about this drawer stuff. Shelf heights, we do care about. Gotta do the drawers too. So these are like the cumulative heights of the different parts of the shelf. And okay, so now we just have to go back and add consts in here. It's kind of fun if you do this properly. You can kind of outpace the autocorrect pretty quick. Let's see what's left. There's a lot of these. I think we're gonna have in here. All right. So there's that. Let's see if we still have our shelf with drawers. No. Got a double constant. There it is. Okay, we still got our shelf with drawers, but we've got our heights as constants. Let's put something on one of those shelves. So here we're using my custom model hierarchy format, just a Python dictionary. Furnishings.const.shelf. Heights, cumulative shelves. Let's put it on the second shelf. I expect I'm going to have to add thickness in here, but we'll see. We'll use our new polyviewer interface here to view our shelf and use auto color so we can spot things. Okay, yep. So that 0. Oh, no, it is actually. Ooh. Past me did this correctly. So 8, and we gotta rotate this guy. Yeah, and then I gotta translate this ball so its coordinates are so its 0 is at its bottom. One of the best things I ever did is make these little helper functions. I put off doing this forever. I don't know why, but I made these little helper functions. So everything is a NumPy array, but I made these little helper functions for creating vectors of a certain length in a certain direction. So, you know, rather than having to type vec3 0 0 or even like having to say like z hat times whatever, I think it's way cleaner just to say, okay, a vector in the z direction that's this long, you know. Because 90% of the time when you're doing this programmatic stuff, you're working with vectors that are just along a single dimension. So, okay, so there's our ball. And look at that, there it is sitting on the shelf. Okay. Now, let's put some books on the shelf. So I have a function that makes a stack of vertical stack of books. I want a function that makes a horizontal stack with different properties, maybe random books, different sized books, maybe whether they're pushed to the front or back, but I think there's going to be enough defaults that we can kind of rein in the configuration. Let's keep going. Just going to check Twitter quick. Okay, so we've got a shelf with objects. I'm going to remind myself of how books work. We'll just kind of play here and then make a new function in a bit. And let's close a bunch of this stuff that we don't need. Let's back up. Think, let's see, where's books coming from? Here in miscellaneous. Okay, so what I'm kind of thinking is I want to make this guy flexible. So I want, given a sequence of book configurations, group them, and then build a set of books that kind of instances and reuses the ones that are the same. So let's see here. What is the term for what I'm making? Is it a row of books? Yeah. Yeah, if I search for row of books, yeah, so I'm making a row. So we'll call this oh. see, here I parameterized the size, and then I had a constant cover thickness and page trim. So we'll do something similar here, where we do book comps equals size XYZ what is this? Z-frac. Oh, that was actually just the Z rotation. Yeah, so the main thing, really the main thing is the size. So we'll do that, and then we'll make the covers that thick and the page trim a little bit bigger. Actually, let me do this. It's a little bit smaller. Both ways, okay. And then we'll just list out our sizes here. And just for the sake of getting something on the screen, we'll take this, our previous book stack configuration. Okay, so, and we're gonna end up having this be a part set. So this is a tuple. These should be tuples. Let's see, does this match up with? And I'm gonna add extra parameters to this later, but oh no, that's an open book. Let's see here. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so I want to put the configurations into a set. And then actually I don't need to do that. I can just do that with a oh yeah, I do want to do that. Okay, so keys is going to be set of book comps. We're going to make a dictionary of book parts to use. So, and we can actually sort these. It's kind of funny. We can actually do a list of sorted. Yeah. And then, do we have any repeated ones here? Let's actually just setup logging here. for key in keys. Books, parts. It's going to be a dictionary. Now, for each key, we want to construct that book. Let's see here. Yeah, I think we can do this. If I run into trouble with the instancing thing that I'm trying to do, I'll just forget about it. It should not be too hard to do though. And this is a situation, especially for the game, which I'm kind of thinking ahead to using this in the game where we want to instance if we can. So let's just get this going right here. And it looks like our music ran out, so let's do something a little bit more chill now. Do some LA sunset. Okay, Imperial X Max says, hi there. Sorry I missed your chat if you did a while back. It's good to see you. Is there anybody else in the chat working on a project over their lunch break? I sometimes wonder if... I'm not technically on a lunch break right now, but it is sort of lunchtime. Okay, so Imperial X Max says, what's happening here? Any context? Just spawned here out of the blue. Well, welcome. I am working on some programmatic 3D modeling, so I will show you what I am doing. I am making a 3D art piece using Python, and I'm working on adding some books to a bookshelf, and I'm doing all of the modeling with Python code, and then I have code that is controlling Blender to load it all in and set up a scene. And I'll show you what the scene looks like right now. It's a little bit experimental, and just kind of testing some things out. Not everything is complete. The layout isn't done, but I can show you what it looks like. So this is what the geometry looks like. I was just experimenting with putting things on these shelves. So we've got our Ophin. He's our sort of biblically accurate angel, and he's doing some reading. He's reading some piles of books with some candles, and the scene in Blender looks like this. So if we turn dry run off and load it into Blender. So basically I want books on those bookshelves in the background. So this is the scene in Blender, and we did some programming to control some attributes of the rendering process, but this is what the rendered scene sort of looks like. And everything you can see in the scene is being created with code. I think with the exception of some of the materials on the Ophin I might have done manually, and I'm loading them in from an asset library, but the wax candles, the flames, everything is being created programmatically. So I've got these shelves look like this. I teased out some parameters of where the positions of the shelves are on it. I'm going to build stacks of books and put them on the shelf. So Imperial X Max says, I see, I'm kind of interested in that, looking forward. I'm not really a tech guy, but would like to be. Yeah, well, we live in a sort of a golden age of being able to learn things, and one of the really great things about the tools that I'm using today is that they're all free. So Python, programming language, free, tons of documentation. I think it's one of the best programming languages to learn. Blender is a really amazing software. It just makes me so happy thinking about Blender and all the stuff you can do with it. It's completely free. It's controlled with Python. All the stuff that I'm doing, you can find great tutorials and information on, and you can do it yourself. It doesn't really take fancy computer hardware to run either. I'm fortunate enough to have a MacBook Pro that I'm running this on, but you could actually run this on much older laptop, you know, consumer hardware, and it's just a lot of fun. So okay, so let's get back into putting these books on the shelf. Okay, so turn dry run back on, and so I'm working on building a stack of books kind of given their positions, or a row of books I should say. We're just creating these unique, each unique book in the row that we're going to build. So let's see. I'm going to enumerate these guys. Yeah, can I do that? Yeah, I can do that. Okay, and I want to add a unique prefix to each one here. And let me just bring this up again. So we have cover and pages. So we're going to add a prefix, book, IDX, and then we're going to, whoop. So, and I'm just going to make a little mapping of keys here. So, there's probably a better way to do this that I'm forgetting, but I want to get this instancing thing right because it is going to be kind of important for the game. Yeah, so Imperial X Max says also not to disturb what you're doing, and feel free to disturb me. I'm streaming here to interact with people. It says, is it really true that we can run Blender on a PC with not good specs like my HP laptop 15S too? Yeah, so Blender is extremely lightweight. Almost everything that you do in Blender you could do on a computer from 10 years ago. Really where it starts to need some horsepower is rendering, but there are actually ways to render more quickly now too. So they're building alternative rendering pipelines like the Eevee rendering pipeline or Eevee renderer for Blender that are more lightweight. I'm not sure when your laptop is from, but for a long time, so before I got this MacBook Pro in the spring of 2023, so it's about 2 years old now. Before then, I was using a laptop that I got secondhand and that laptop was a little Dell Core i5 machine from 2015, and I was using that as my main computer from about 2019 through 2023, and it still works. I actually just the other day I was running some of this code, running Blender on it. So you know, you can't do GPU rendering on it. So depending on what you're doing, it can be slow, but it will definitely work. Yeah. So now we should have a set of unique books. If we flatten this guy out. Okay, yeah, so he's Imperial X-Max says it's from 2 years old and i13 at 11th gen. Oh yeah, you almost certainly will be able to run Blender on that. And Blender runs under... It runs on Windows, Mac, and Linux, so whatever you have on your machine, it will almost certainly run on. That's another fun thing about Blender is you can set everything up on one machine, and you can just go to a completely different machine and kind of do the same thing. I find that really fun. Yeah, none of the machines. Well, I have a desktop that I got in 2021. That's probably my most powerful GPU machine. Other than that, none of the machines that I run Blender on have been like gaming machines with great specs. I mean, this MacBook Pro is pretty powerful, but it still isn't like super powerful. And it works great. I'm gonna just see where we're at with our unique books here. Oh yeah. Okay, so Imperial X-Max says, also, have you ever used Houdini, and what other programming languages do you know? Okay, so I haven't used Houdini. I've watched some videos about it. It looks really powerful and interesting. It's something I would probably spend time getting into if Houdini was also free. I kind of like focusing on free software when I'm learning. As far as other programming languages that I know, so Python's my favorite language and kind of what I use the most day to day. But I've worked with many programming languages. So I'm a professional software engineer by trade, and I've worked professionally with C++, C#, Java, Scala, Python, R, and trying to think if there are any others, MATLAB. So every programming language kind of has its advantages and disadvantages, and I like most of them. One language that I really didn't like is Rust. I'd like to give it another try sometime, maybe on a project of my own, but I wasn't a big fan of Rust. For my day job, I mainly program in Python and C++ for that. Do a lot of machine learning and computer vision work in Python, and then for production we implement it in C++. So yeah, it's fun knowing different languages and using each for its correct job. And Python is a language that I think you can use it for just about anything. Do you you said you're not much of a tech guy, but do you do any programming or use any programming languages or Houdini? Okay. they've got to put. Okay, so there's our unique books. Now, if we, let's just test this quick. If we add 2 more, we should still have the same number of unique books. Yeah, okay. And let's get rid of this. We need to look at that hash ball anymore. Okay, so now we're going to accumulate the books in a row. So we'll build our result predict with a root. And then we'll just have an offset here. I don't want to figure it out right now. We're not out of time, but coming up on, let's see here. Oh, yeah. Coming up on when I want to be done. So we'll see how far we can get with this stack or row of books and then call it good. Even if we could get them kind of centered on the shelves rather than the end, that would be good. Okay, so now we're gonna go back to our original list of books. So for key and book counts. Okay, so Imperial XMax says, not really, just started learning Python some time ago, not yet taken a full delve into the tech world. I'm surely interested in though. I do know lots of software as PC building. Yeah. You sound like a power user. I think probably programming would come pretty naturally. And it could be a great tool for you, especially with AI now. So I am not using AI for my personal projects just because I want them to kind of be like creative in my own work, but I use stuff like Copilot and Gemini in my job, and they really take a lot of the frustration out of things, especially things that you're doing the first time. You know, they kind of, if you know what you're doing, they'll let you kind of focus on the interesting parts. But I'm assuming that if you're kind of new to programming, they could also help resolve a lot of frustration too. So it's just a kind of a golden age of learning how to program and being able to enjoy it. He said, Imperial XMax says, do you have any tips on how I can learn Python? I mean, since AI now can do a lot of stuff, can I use of AI to better improve how I learn Python? Yeah, so I think what I would do is what I've always recommended people do when they say, how do I learn, programming, or how do I learn Python, is come up with some project that you're interested in that you would like to do. So like, it could be something like I'm doing where you want to use Python to create some 3D art, but have some specific outcome that you want that's sort of separate from I want to learn Python, right? And then jump into accomplishing that. And that desire, like for me, the desire to create something or build something always helps me push through the process of learning. And then, I would say, ask AI questions, maybe like try to write the code yourself, but like when you run into problems, talk to ChatGPT or Gemini and ask about error messages or different things like that. Probably wouldn't recommend just asking AI to generate complete scripts and things for you if you're trying to learn. I don't think it's there yet, especially for complex things. But kind of iterating on things, asking questions when you get stuck. I mean, even just Googling. I mean, that's kind of how I learned how to program, is just, you know, Googling, reading documentation, things like that. So yeah. Um, my take, so you're asking, you said you're a professional software engineer. What's your take on AI? Since I hear a lot of articles on people losing their jobs every day. Yeah, you know, I think the way I see it is, it certainly is, AI certainly is capable of doing a lot of work. I don't think it's there yet, especially for interesting things. So, um, you know, I think a lot of software engineering isn't about like typing code as fast as you can. It's about solving interesting problems. Even kind of scientific type things where you're setting up experiments and running things and doing research, like reading papers and figuring out better methods for doing things, and, you know, implementing things. And I think there's some amount of intuition that a person can have about those things that maybe AI doesn't. And I think it's always going to be a little bit of a pain to set up AI agents to automatically iterate on code and run experiments and stuff like that. So I think there's always going to be work for people to do, and that's you know, AI certainly can't replace what I do in my job yet, and I think the point when it can, I'll be telling it what to do. Hopefully not the other way around. Also, I really like programming. I enjoy programming. I enjoy solving problems with software. You know, it would be a bummer if I lost my job due to AI, but that's not going to make me not like programming anymore. So that's something that I always think about and kind of comforts me when I worry about AI taking over or whatever. It's like, AI can do some really horrible things, but I like programming. AI existing can't really change that, you know. It can't take away from me the fact that I like writing code, you know. Maybe it might put me in an economically dire situation, but it's not going to change the fact that I like doing this work. So okay. over this. We know there's only two parts here, the pages and the cover. All right, so Imperial X-Max has another question. He says, I'm curious about performance. When does it make more sense to use Python for tasks in Blender versus using Blender's native tools directly? Nice keyboard sound, by the way. Oh, thanks. My keyboard is, it's a Keychron K8. I'd recommend it. It's a good keyboard for the price, and it's lasted pretty well. Let me see. Let me just double check that, make sure that that's what that is. Yeah, it's a Keychron K8. So I think probably Blender's built-in tools are a lot more efficient than the stuff I'm building in Python, but then they're kind of stuck in Blender. And part of what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build things that I can use in different places, and I don't like the idea of getting locked into one tool. So my goal with this is sort of use Blender for the things that only Blender can do, and try to do everything more general with other tools. So here I'm building the meshes and stuff with Python because I can do that. Other times, you know, like the shader programming and lights and stuff, that's all Blender specific, so I'm using Blender for that. Okay, so let's see, cover. So this should be cover key plus suffix is going to be actually this is going to be evolve. Ugh. This is a mess, but we're almost there. It's going to be book, but the model we want to basically name with the and we want to update the transformation to be oh yeah, we only have to do that for the cover. Exposition. What it's complaining about here. These are definitely strings. Okay, and then we just got to do the pages, which is key, and we don't have to do that. This should be cover key. Yeah, okay, I think, and then we just have to accumulate the width. So we have to add the keys thickness on. Okay, let's see if this does it. Another good question. How do I usually plan out a project before diving into the coder design? So for my personal projects, I don't necessarily do a lot of planning. I just dive in, but I think about generally what I want things to do. Okay, I have to stop now because my family is back. But we'll pick up on this some other time. Thanks for watching, and hope you have a good rest of the day.